Okay, so we now will officially call into order the regular meeting of the Shenango County IDA Board at 8:06 a.m. And if we could do roll call, please.
Raymond here.
Gibbon here.
Corey here.
Blanchard here.
Zeno here.
Thank you. So we will quickly, if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to skip down to the audit review so that we can let our guests leave when they're done with this. I'd like to introduce Rita King and Dwayne Schoen. They are from Insero & Company. We hired them to do our audits this year, and they've been really wonderful to work with. And in your packets, you should have received the audit documents, and I will turn it over to Dwayne and Rita.
Okay, thanks, Carrie, and thank you everybody for giving us a few minutes this morning to review the results of the audit. I want to thank everybody at the IDA for their help getting us through the audit process. Our first time here, I think, went really, really well. The audit itself went very smoothly. No real problems came up, so that's always good news. What you have in front of you on the screen is one of the documents that we issue as part of the audit process. This is the management comment letter. We use the comment letter for a couple of different things. If there are findings or issues that come up during the audit process that we want the board to be aware of, we present them here in this comment letter. We also use the comment letter to bring you up to date on any changes that are coming up in the future related to auditing standards, accounting standards, anything of a kind of global nature. And there aren't any of those either that are affecting the IDA coming up in the relatively near future. So this management comment letter is a nice page that really doesn't say anything at all. The next document that you've got is what we call the communication letter. Auditing standards require us to communicate certain aspects of the audit with the board at the conclusion of the audit process. And so we've issued this letter to make sure that that you're aware of those things. This letter notes here on the first page that there were no changes in accounting standards related to the IDA during 2020. We always look at if there are estimates that are part of the financial statements. We always look at those. We look at the underlying assumptions related to those estimates, and we didn't have any concerns with any of those. We look at disclosures as part of the financial statement process. We look to see that they're clearly worded, clearly presented, and we didn't have any concerns in the way that those were put together either. We had no difficulties, no disagreements with management during the audit process. And as I mentioned, we didn't have any findings or issues that we needed to present. In addition to our opinion on the audit, we also look at the management's discussion and analysis. That's part of the overall audit packet. And we look at that in the context of its relation to the financial statements, and we didn't have any concerns in that either. And then the final document that you've got is the larger one, the financial report itself. Right after the table of contents is the auditor's opinion. We're issuing an unmodified opinion, also known as a clean opinion. This is the kind of opinion that you want to have. It means that we believe the financial statements are fairly stated. On the second page of this auditor's report is reference to, at the first paragraph is the opinion itself. And then below that is our report on the required supplementary information, that management's discussion and analysis. Our opinion that relates to the schedule of projects, which is in the back of the report and is still waiting one piece of information. The very last paragraph of page 2 just notes that the 2019 financial statements are presented here for comparative purposes, but they were audited by your predecessors. We're just presenting those numbers. We're not presenting an opinion on them because we didn't do that audit. And then the very last paragraph, which spills over onto page 3, because the audit is presented not only in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, but also in accordance with government auditing standards, we're also required to present a report on internal control and compliance. That report is at the end of this packet. That report didn't identify any deficiencies or weaknesses in the control system and did not identify any non-compliance with laws and regulations. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rita, and she's going to kind of walk through the management's discussion analysis and the financial statements.
Yep. So the first page of the management discussion and analysis gives a little background on the IDA and the mission. In the middle of the page, you see the financial highlights. So this is just the key points. So your total cash decreased in 2020, and it's really a primary cause of the decrease in accounts payable and the result of operations during the year. Your total revenue increased like about $3,000, and that's due to an increase in grant income. Your total expenses also did decrease, and that's really due to a decrease in your software, equipment, and utilities expense during the year due to COVID, really. And then your net position at the end of the year did decrease about $94,000. And all of the above items were parts of it. Then it just gives a basic overview of the financial statements to show what you're going to see. You're going to see the statement of net position, the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in that position, and then the statement of cash flows. So this management's discussion and analysis is a condensed version of the full statements that are later on in this report, but these give a 3-year comparison. So you can see the trends over the 3 years. So figure 1 is just your analysis of your net position. And you can see 2018, 19, and 2020 on here. So again, your total assets was $1.3 million, which is a decrease of approximately $105,000 from 2019. Total liabilities is $2,000, a decrease of $10,000 from the prior year. Again, all related to the accounts payable. And then your total net position at the end of the year was approximately $1.3 million, which is a $94,000 decrease. And a lot of the decrease is due to decrease in net investment in capital assets for accumulated depreciation, decrease in accounts payable because items were being paid more timely. And then there is a comparison. You can read on to the comparisons for 2019 to 2020 and 2018 to 2019. Figure 2 is the change in that position. So this is your revenue and expenses. Your total revenues were $45,000, which did increase approximately $3,000 this year. And that's really in those non-operating revenues. Your expenses were about $140,000, which is about a $4,000 decrease during the year. I mean, you can see there's offsetting amounts within it. So that gave a total change in that position of $94,000 decrease. Figure 3 is capital assets. So this is showing what assets you have in place, less the accumulated depreciation. And as you can see, that's where the dollar change is coming from. It's because there is more accumulated depreciation, as there usually is every year. So your ending capital assets is $627,000. And then next is the future bearings, future economic factors. So this was actually provided by Carrie. this is an area to just highlight anything that the IDA, the agency is doing in the future and what's gonna impact them. So that's it for the management's discussion and analysis. Next is the actual statements. So like I said before, the management discussion analysis like summarized all these statements. The only statement that's not included in the management discussion analysis is the cash flows. So this statement of net position, which we talked about, the next page is a statement of revenue, expenses, and change in net position, which we had talked about. And you can see where all the changes actually came from, the dollar amounts. And then the next page is the statement of cash flows. So this is where you can actually see where you received cash from, where your cash was spent on, all the changes really in your cash from operating activities, from financing activities and investing activities. And then at the bottom, there is a little reconciliation to see like with your depreciation and change in accounts payable and prepaid expenses. Then we get into the footnotes. So note 1 is our summary of significant accounting policies. It's all about the entity. So it describes the type of entity that the agency is, what GASB statements they follow, the basis of accounting. So everything, the accounts are maintained on an accrual basis, which means revenues are recorded when they're earned and expenses are recorded when the liability is incurred. It describes capital assets that you capitalize it for over $1,000, and if their useful life's more than 5 years. There's the equity classifications. So you have net investment in capital assets. There's restricted net position and unrestricted net position. There's descriptions of fee income, non-operating revenues. And again, as Dwayne had mentioned earlier, the use of estimates. We have a paragraph in here just stating the same thing the letter does. Note 2 is all about cash and the deposits. And it pretty much says that throughout the year, the agency may maintain deposits that are in excess of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation amount of $250,000. But at the end of the year, the amounts were covered by that plus collateral. So at the end of 2020, there was $701,000. 250 of that was through the FDIC, and then the remaining was covered by collateral. So everything's fully collateralized and there's nothing to worry about. Note 3 is the capital lease of the Bainbridge property. And this shows the amounts that were paid during the year and what's going to be paid in the future. Note 4 is your capital assets. So again, this was summarized in the management discussion analysis, but it kind of breaks it out a little bit more so you can see exactly how much every area is worth and the depreciation. And then the second part of note 4 is the comparative. So it shows your 18 to 19. Note 5 is your grant revenue. So you can see in the past you'd receive some EDA and New York State DOT grants. This year you didn't receive any of those. Note 6 is your lease obligation for the Lieutenant Warren Eaton Airport. Again, it describes all the requirements, what you have to pay. And then we have the future minimum lease payments scheduled out based on the currently available CPI. Number 7 is the payment in lieu of taxes. So a pilot was entered for the Earl B. Clark Park, and they are required to make annual pilots in the amount of $2,000. So that just states that there is that. Number 8 is litigation. This isn't a new litigation. This is something that has been ongoing, related to the Susquehanna Railway Corporation. The agency, everyone's aware of it, and they're kind of just waiting to see what's going to happen with it. So we do have to disclose it until it's fully settled. Note 9 is our related party and administrative service contract agreement footnote. So we do have to disclose any related parties. As I'm sure most of you are aware, you have related parties with Development Shenango Corporation and Commerce Shenango, and actually Shenango County. So we have to disclose that. And then note 10 is a general economic uncertainty for COVID-19, because we are not sure what the pandemic is really going to do to the economy and how it's going to affect everyone. So this is just standard language across all of our reports that we put in there. So the next page is a schedule of projects. So this is not fully updated. Joanna is waiting on one more project to respond. And then I will be able to update this schedule for your projects, and it can be uploaded to Paris.
Rita, these aren't any of our projects.
No, I know. It didn't get processed through. They didn't vet it correctly.
It's just a sample of what it will look like.
Yes.
Right.
So I have yours. There's just one project we're waiting on. And then we can finalize this. This is what's uploaded.
Okay.
The last 2 pages of this document is the report that Dwayne had mentioned earlier about the internal controls in accordance with government auditing standards. And that's it.
Thank you very much to both of you. Does anybody have any questions for Rita or Dwayne? Okay. Our experience with them, just so you know, was very positive. There was a lot of, as you know, when you start with a new auditor, in case you don't know, there's a lot of information that you have to find and dig up. And Joanna did a lot of digging. We had to find a lot of things that weren't where we thought they would be. But it was good too, because it helped us sort of clean up our records. And you know, the audit process the first year is a lot more intensive than future years. So. But Joanna is still here. She hasn't left, so it only gets easier from here. Because I just want to thank them for being so great to work with us and being so detailed.
And thank you too.
Yes.
So with that, if there's no other questions, and there is a note in the on the agenda that we just are waiting for the schedule of projects to be finalized, but pending the finalized schedule of projects, we would look for a motion to accept the 2020 audit report.
Gibbon will make the motion.
Blanchard will second.
A vote?
Raymond, I.
Gibbon, aye.
Corey, aye.
Blanchard, aye.
Zeno, I.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Rita and Dwayne. You're welcome to stay, but I'm sure you have other audit reports to get to, so up to you. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks to both of you.
All right. Okay, so we'll go back up to our regular meeting and approval of the minutes, the February 17th, 2021 meeting minutes. If there are no questions, motion to approve.
So moved by Corey.
Second by Gibbon.
Vote?
Raymond, I.
Gibbon, aye.
Corey, aye.
Blanchard, aye.
Zeno, I.
Okay, thank you. Just find my rest of my notes here. So next we have the financial report. Let me just get my. Okay, so just a few things I wanted to know on The financial report, it's been it's been a pretty slow start of the year. So there isn't too much on here to really talk about. When we get to accounts receivable, that note that $14,000 is for the payment 5 of 10 for the Norwich Alvagen pilot project. Number 2 notes the our lease with Cascoon. Number 3 is our insurance, our prepaid insurance. I wanted to draw attention to number 4. I know at last meeting we had some questions about accumulated depreciation, and as we've gone through the audit and cleaned up our books, that number has now changed. So that is under note number 4. And under number 5 is utilities. Under statement of activities. Papers here. Okay. So one thing I wanted to note with this board, I'm doing this with my other boards too. The way that we show the statement of activities can be a little bit confusing sometimes. The column, this column here, better, worse than budget, sometimes throws people off. So it's taken me some time to understand this. So we create the budget at the end of the year, and then with that budget, it's a projected budget month by month for the future year. So sometimes when you see these numbers and it shows better or worse than budget, it means January to January or February to February, there's been a shift from what we projected it being. So if that sometimes throws you off, I like to just look at the year-to-date actual and then compare that to the 2021 budget. That's come up a couple times with some questions about why this number looks like we're short or, we're behind. It's not that we're behind, it's just, month to month, actual to actual. It's not exactly lining up like it had done before. The one note on here, again, just a reminder, the reason that the Puckett Solar, this line right here is off is because initially when we did this project with them, we thought it was going to be for 5 years and we ended up settling at 10, but that was after we did the budget. So that number will look like it's off, and this is the revenue amount that we brought in. Also related to that, I was looking over the meeting from last month and I misspoke. Chair Burton had asked me if the payment that we give to DCC was one time. And I think I misunderstood what he said and I answered quickly. So I do want to note that when we get these pilot projects, it is an annual payment that we give to DCC. It's 25% of the project fee that we get goes to DCC to help support what we do, economic development, to support staffs, all those things that we talked about last time. So when he said one time, I thought he meant like just once a year, and I don't think that's what he meant. So I do want to note that every year when we get these pilot payments, there will be a 25% deduction that goes to DCC. And that is all I had to note on the financials, unless you had a question. Okay, hearing none, I will look for a motion to approve.
Gibbon will make the motion.
Blanchard will second.
And vote.
Raymond, I.
Gibbon, aye.
Corey, aye.
Blanchard, aye.
Eno, I.
Thank you. All right, so bills and invoices. There was a question that was sent in about the DCC contribution. Joanna, were you able to talk to bookkeeping about that?
Yes, so Randy had called asking about the Commerce Schnago portion.
Oh, sorry.
And it was just because some of the bills are for the month of March, but we cut the checks for this meeting so that they can be signed. So they won't always appear in they won't appear in the February financial statements. A portion will appear in the March one. So that's why they don't always line up. You can't find all the individual line items to equal 50762.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions about the bills or invoices? Okay. As we do when we meet remotely, we need to pass this motion. Resolved, whereas the March 25th, 2021 CCIDA meeting is being held virtually due to COVID-19 concerns, that the Shenango County IDA Board gives Executive Director Carrie Green authority to sign these checks without board member signatures on the vouchers. Make a motion.
Hadn't we already voted on this? Or do we have
To
to?
do it every month because the vouchers require signatures every month for the audit. So this is like our proof that you gave me the authority to sign the checks.
So moved
Thanks.
by Corey.
Gibbon will second.
Vote.
Raymond, I.
Gibbon, aye.
Corey, I.
Blanchard, aye.
Eno, I.
Thank you. Maybe by next month, we'll be meeting in person again. So maybe we'll have to do this again. We'll talk about that. So I'm just gonna keep going. So under old business, I do want to know, we have been talking with, I know I've mentioned this before, that we're looking to do an open house. I think we're gonna try to settle on a date in April, and we'll make sure that you're all aware of that. We have been getting some interest in the building. We've shown it quite a few times. I'm hoping some of those projects might come to fruition, or at least we get an official offer. But we don't want to wait for that either. So now that the weather is breaking, we want to actually hold an open house down there one day in April. I'll work with Joanna on doing that. Maybe there's a way to do something in conjunction with the airport. We can talk to Shane about that. He's the new airport administrator. So maybe we can make it sort of like a day to check out both spaces. And we'll more on that soon. As soon as we have a date, we'll let you know. Any questions on that before I move on? Under solar updates, just a note, we are getting ready to close our Tiffany Energy project. I see Matt is on the call today. He has been fabulous. He's been our go-to for all of these projects. He's done a really great job helping us with our process and keeping us on track. We are hoping to close that. I don't know if it's going to happen this month. We're meeting with them again on Monday or Tuesday of next week. I think we're going to be closing next week, if not the week after. We're very close. We're just finishing dotting those I's and crossing the T's. So as soon as we can close that project, we'll know what the closing fees look like and what that final schedule will look like. But we're very, very close on that project. Norbit Energy has a new representative. The person that we have been working with has taken a job elsewhere. They have reached out. They just want to kind of check in with us and see where everything is. I have heard from the Coventry supervisor, and they are looking to have the IDA be lead agency on this project. So I've shared with Jennifer, what we need to do that we're more than willing to, but we just want to make sure the planning board has an official resolution or something designating us, so that we're, stepping in and everybody understands that this is the role that we're going to play. So I haven't seen that happen yet, but that should happen soon, and we'll be able to move forward on those projects. Any questions on solar? Okay, under new business, just a real quick note, we'll talk more about this later. As you are hopefully aware, we've been using a program called Statebook the last few years to manage our available buildings throughout the county. It's not a great system. It's very antiquated. It doesn't have good reachability. The only way you can look at those listings is if you subscribe to Statebook, which I don't know if any of us really understood that. With all of the influx of business, people asking us about bringing their business here, they want to see buildings, they want to know what's available. It's like, honestly, like pulling teeth, trying to get the information from people, and Statebook is just not user-friendly. Joanna did a great job of checking out other similar systems like it. We found one called Golden Shovel. We have moved into an agreement with them. It's going to be much, much better. We'll do a formal presentation. We're doing it for DCC board and also for this board, as both of you pay toward that marketing and economic development initiative. We want you to see what this new system looks like. It has a lot of bells and whistles. It's very user-friendly. The one big perk that we're really excited about, and I know Joanna is excited about, is say Joanna has a building that's empty and she wants to put on this for developers to take a look at. She actually can go in and fill out the information, submit photos, and then once we approve it, either Joanna or somebody on this end approves it, it goes live on the site. We're planning to do a big marketing push for this, let people know that we've invested in this software. It's a county software, and we want people to utilize it. So it's really, when somebody calls me, they're saying, okay, I want a building that's so big with these features, with this kind of energy, we just don't have a good way to have a catalog of those. And so we end up calling our contacts in the county, and you learn over time who has a building and who doesn't, and that kind of a thing. But this will make it so everything is in one space. Not only that, but Golden Shovel has amazing social media tools and software, and they will be pushing out the system as they push out the rest of theirs. So I'm very excited about this new project. So more on that once it's live. Any questions on that? Okay. Coming up, we have a New York State Economic Development. We subscribe, we're a member of New York State EDC, the Economic Development Council. They are doing a Spring IDA Academy on April 13th. It's being done virtually from 10 to 3. I've attended this a couple of times. I'm actually signing up. Jalan is going to go for the first time. It's a great way to kind of get the rundown of what IDAs do. They talk about, current legislation or things that are coming down the pike that we should be aware of. I don't know, and if any of you have ever been asked to attend, whether you're new on the board or you've been on the board for a while, it's great to go to. We're paying for Joanna to go regardless, and they do have a group rate. So if anybody else would like to attend this, please let me know. I want to try to get her registered by the end of the week. So again, it's April 13th from 10 to 3. It's being done remotely. If you know you want to go and you want to tell me now, if you want to take a look at your calendar and email me back, I'll send out some information after the meeting about it. But it's a great way to just, talk with other people about IDA work, what they're doing. When I first started, I'd only been here maybe a month, and I went to one in person at Genesee College, which it was great. I had no idea what I was talking about then because I was brand new. But I think at this point now, having been in the job in a while, you get a lot more from it. I did attend a virtual one back in July, which was very, very good. Even though you're not together in person, it was nice to talk to other people that do the work that we do and hear what some of the things people are facing in other IDAs. So just putting it out there, and please let me know if you'd like to attend and we'll register you. Okay. I want to talk with you about our lease with Cascoon. So Matt and Kevin are still on. We've been talking with Matt about this a little bit. I have received, not written, but verbal from Andrea Cascoon that they are looking to terminate their agreement with us. They no longer feel that the Bainbridge location is viable because of COVID, the number of layoffs that they had last year. They're just not able to expand their business in the way that they thought they could. And they want out of their lease. So Matt has been working with us, kind of going through, some of you were here when that was first done. I had a brief conversation with Brian yesterday, so he knows what's going on here. My understanding was a project that we took on because they had asked us to. The building was up for taxes. We got it from the village of Bainbridge, or the town of Bainbridge, for this project for Cascoon. So they have a pilot agreement, which is in the form of a lease with us. At the end of that, I think they pay like $1 for the building, and then they take ownership. We're only a couple of years into that project though. So we need to sort of talk about, kind of what those next steps are. If we want to get into too much detail, we might have to go into an executive session to do that. But if we're going to talk about any kind of legal, but Matt, do you want to give a quick overview of where we are with this and maybe some next talking points?
Sure. Yeah. And I think, we are at a point where it's been verbal and not written. So I think it's going to be helpful for us to follow up with Cascoon and ask them to be a little bit more definitive about what they want to do and put it in writing so that we can move forward on that. We have a lease agreement with Cascoon, as well as a job creation agreement and a pilot. And so we need to talk to them about what they had in mind for termination and walk them through the various legal requirements we see within the lease and the pilot for termination, and find out what terms they want to terminate on. As Carrie mentioned, they do have an option to purchase, whether they remain in possession for the entire term of the lease or whether they terminate early. They have a right to purchase the property for $1, so long as certain payments are made. So we are at a point where it's tough to get into too much nitty gritty and too much of the dollar figures with this board, I think, without knowing a little bit more from Cascoon. But suffice it to say, it is a situation that we need to get our arms around and have them. I know they've reached out a couple of times, wanted to do something probably on an expedited basis. I can't speak for Carrie if that's the case, but they need to work through the appropriate steps for terminating this situation appropriately under contract and letting us know what issues they foresee in being able to do that, so that we have a better sense of how we can communicate to you folks as a board and to take the steps necessary to terminate this in a fashion that makes the most sense for everybody involved and is feasible.
Thank you, Matt.
You bet.
Yeah, so the thought was that I would in writing email them back and just say, you have a verbal, this needs to be in writing. I think there's like a 45 to 90 day written notice that we need to have that they're terminating this agreement, but put it back on them, because at this point, I don't know if they understand the financial obligation, if they just don't want to have to own the building anymore, if they aren't able to make that financial payment. We're just not sure what the end result might be. So after we were able to talk with Matt earlier this week to kind of go through some of these steps. So just wanted to inform you, see if you had any questions, and if that sounded like a good plan to you, to just go ahead and basically put the ball back in their court and say, what are you looking to get out of this?
Carrie, have they done anything with the building at all since they've owned it?
No, not that I know of. She said all they've done is they have storage in there. So they have some things they have to move out. So if you remember, the building is not in great condition.
Right.
She noted that the back half is sort of falling in. But no, they haven't done anything to it.
Carrie, a question that I haven't asked, but it's probably a threshold question. Have they been making their lease payments appropriately?
They have, yes.
Okay,
They did
that's what I thought.
when COVID first started last year, and we gave them, I think, a 2-month, 1 or 2 months, we let them not pay because they were having such difficulty. But yes, they've been paying.
Okay.
So board members, are you okay with the plan that we sort of just laid out, and we'll keep you updated, or do you want to talk about this a little bit more?
That sounds good, Carrie, until we know exactly what their intentions are. Yeah, there's not much we can do.
Okay. All right. So we'll move forward with that communication to them in writing so that they know what's expected, and we'll keep you up to date on what's happening with that. But thank you very much, Matt. All right, moving on. This is just a note. So as you are probably aware, there's been a lot of activity regarding the High Wind Bridge project in Guilford. We did receive this from New York State Board on Electric. It's they granted the certificate for the project. And I also attached in your packet was this article from the Evening Sun about the project. We have not yet received an official pilot application, but we expect to. Just want to make you aware of this. We don't have to get into a big discussion about it now unless you have questions. It'll follow how the rest of our pilot applications process follows. But I just wanted to make you aware that we likely will see a pilot application for this soon. Any questions? Okay. I don't see a need to go into executive session unless one of you would like to call one for some reason. Okay. If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved by Corey.
Second by Gibbon.
Vote.
Raymond, I.
Gibbon, aye.
Corey, aye.
Blanchard, aye.
I.
Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, very much.
Thanks for running it, Carrie.
Let me know. Not a problem. Happy to help.
Good job, Peter.
Bye.